Hello, everyone, and welcome to the writers class. Yes, y'all, it's been a long time since I've done one for the writers class. I mean, for a podcast, you got to pick one every once in a while. You're like, well, no, this week doesn't feel like, the ladies. Well, it could be the Ladies Tell podcast because, like, my guest is also a screenwriter, so that kind of works, right?
Yeah.
Oh, so now it's just the toss up, but I don't want to use the time. Okay, anyway, you guys do not care about the little problems of administrative stuff for podcasts. That is not what you're here for. Because if you were, I would hate my podcast. It would be technical, and I can't stand those. Yeah, no, I'm sticking to that. I had to think about that. No, I can't stand those. Anyway, I'm Winona. Semi-professionalism, I would do a better dance, but my shoulder hurts, and I'm getting a little old now, so gotta keep it small. And I wrote books. Imagine that. You know how, like, when I said that like I surprised myself. Yeah, so there are 18 of them now. Yep, because there used to be 17. We wrote one more, that's 18, and we finished up one more before the end of the year, December the 23rd. We finished up one more, so that makes 19. And if I'm fortunate, I'll do another one by the end of January, and I'll be 20. Yay. Anyway, the books are And I Thought Divorce Was Bad, and I Thought Being Grown Up Was Easy, If Only I Were Me, a memoir in verse, Widow's Web, Widow's Debt, and Foreign Coffee. If you're keeping track, those are six, just six. Yeah. You're like, where are the rest? Because that's a long list and no one wants to hear the rest, right? Exactly. But those 6 books are where audiobooks can be found. Yay. Because you don't want to read the book, you want to listen to the book. And I need to get paid to do that. With the serious face right here. But you're not here to hear about me, although I really wish you were. I could tell you all about my ankle, my poofy, messy hair, and this wonderful necklace that Jade got me and I threw on, although it was supposed to go with a formal dress. Looks good though. It looks like a whole collar. I'm trying to be a Supreme Court judge. Yeah, nah, not too many years in law school. You're here to hear about my wonderful guest. Wonderful guest. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me. I'm Cate Holahan, and I now feel like a schlub because I do not have 20 books. I have 6. I have 6 books out there. Plus, I write the Young Rich Widows audio series. I co-author that with 3 other great female authors. And in addition to that, I'm a screenwriter. I've had a couple TV movies made, and yeah, still plugging away at it. So that's me.
I was about to end this interview because I'm jealous. More successful. Click. So I've always wanted to be a screenwriter and have something made. I think all of the authors do. How does that feel?
It's been good, so I actually did a crazy thing during COVID. All the bookstores were closed, and I had a book come out, and I did not know how I was going to market it at all because all the bookstores were closed. And so I freaked out and said, I'm going to get a screenwriting degree at grad school. And so I applied to grad school and was one of the oldest people in the program, around all these 20-year-olds, God bless them, and their youth. And then there was me. But I got a screenwriting degree from NYU Tisch. And then while I was in school, I sold 2 movies of the week to MarVista Tubi. And that's how I paid for grad school. So that was always, that's good when you can make your homework work for you. So that was
I was joking the first time. The second time I may not be joking. This interview may be over.
but it's fun, it's different because when you are writing a book, you control that whole world. And really, screenwriting is a collaborative process. You have to be just very open to the fact that you are telling a story, and you're like, in some ways, you're like the first draft of that story, but then everybody else is going to bring other things to it. And I mean, there was one movie, Midnight Hustle, that I was watching, and there were a couple scenes in there where I was like, I picture them, or I did not think that they were going to do that, but it was cool, and they bring different things to it, and so you just have to kind of step back and go, this isn't my story, it's a collaboration, which is also what I do with Young Rich Widows, right? Because there's 4 of us writers, so we all have to kind of find a voice that's in between all of our voices, and then make our individual characters unique and a bit more expressive of ourselves.
Since I'm a narcissist, I'm going to talk about myself now. So, I thoroughly understand I don't thoroughly understand what you're saying about like screenwriting because I've never sold one. Well, that's not. I sold a movie, but that wasn't a scripted thing. But I've never sold a script. So, yeah, like sending it to your friend who's a producer and your other friend who's a line producer and then your friend who's a director, and then they're like, I see it this way, and you're just shaking your head like, no, you don't. But then it's not for you to do. It's not for you to see. And then let's not forget the executives.
Right.
Because that's the final say.
Yeah, you really have to be open to letting go. It is like you have an idea of something, but you don't rule it like you do with a book. So you have to just kind of sit there and go, okay. And a lot of things are done for budget, too. A lot of things are done because it's like, we can't afford that fifth location. So figure it out. Or, you have this big, long conversation with the character's parent and, yeah, they need to be a day player. So they have to have under 5 lines. And these are the budgetary considerations that go into movie making. Whereas, in a book, I'm like, I can start it with a plane crash. And then there can be like, gosh, Young Rich Widows, we have all that stuff in there. And it's expensive. That would only really, that said, it should totally be a television series, but it's an expensive series.
I agree. It really should be at least a limited series. Like listening to Young Rich Widows, I was kind of writing the script in my head, but you have a graduate's degree, so I can't say anything about the script I was writing. You were writing a great script, I'm sure.
I don't know. The one good thing for grad school is it makes you humble real quick, because anytime you think you've done something great, somebody else is like, yeah, no. And so it's all just 2 years of tearing each other down. So where egos are where they should be, starting in that industry. That's it.
I think if you start in that industry and you think that you're great, then you've given yourself a disservice. Yeah, because I feel like great people end up in the mailroom.
It is true. No, you have to come there being like, how do you think I should do this? But that's okay. So that's where I'm at. Right?
So how was it working with co-authors?
I love it. I wish that everything I wrote was co-authored, because one, I think it, in some ways it's like doing NaNoWriMo, in that you guys all have a schedule where it's like you have to write your chapter that week and everyone's writing their chapter that week, and then you're going to read it on Fridays, and you're going to fix any continuity things, or if anything's not working with the plot, you guys are going to go back and restructure whatever it is, but you have to stay on. And so there's a lovely thing about kind of keeping you on and honest, right? Whereas how it is when you're writing your own books, you have your ultimate deadline, but sometimes you're like, it's just not working for me this week. I'll do it, I'll work on Sunday. I'll fix it on Sunday, and things can kind of get away from you. So I love that. And it's also great it's almost like a writer's room where we all would sit there, and before we start writing the chapters, we have to plot out and plan this book and plan the character arcs and everything. And so you're just sitting there discussing with these other great writers, Kimberly Bell, Vanessa Lilly, and Lane Fargo. And, they have their ideas and you have yours, and you guys kind of kick them around, and eventually the best ones rise to the top, And so I wish I had that. Instead, a lot of times when I'm writing my own books, it's just me debating with myself what's good and what's an awful idea. And a lot of times, I'll think I'm brilliant. And then the next week, future Catherine goes back to last week's Catherine and goes, that was a dumb idea. That is not working at all. I'm bored. It's like, and then you have to go redo it, right? So
I thoroughly understand. Although, like, I'm a bit lazy, so I apologize, y'all. But I thoroughly understand, because you write something and then you're like, this is amazing, and then I've had an editor since I was 10 years old, and so like I just send it to her, and then she tells me what's not amazing. So oftentimes it comes back as a complete different book, and I'm like, oh,
yeah.
She was like I'm still mad at her for cutting a 5-page monologue.
But she's probably, Shakespeare gets away with it, but right. So it's like
in a suspense thriller novel. Yeah. Yeah, like the older I get, the more I'm like, that was a bad idea. But like you do it for yourself, so that has to be amazing and hard. Because who wants to cut anything out?
I know. Well, the good thing is, I will say screenwriting makes you ruthless with your books because you're constantly there going, if this was dialogue and I was watching this scene, would I turn off the television? If the answer is yes, then you're like in it. Not saying I can do that on the first run through, right? The first run through, it's like long winded and I've gone on tangents and, you know,
But
and
you
then you,
have so much. I feel like the first run through is like the first draft is the most fun.
yes.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes, right? Sometimes it is, but sometimes it's like where you're feeling out your characters and then they start being different people than the ones that you needed to finish the book that was first in your head, right? And then you're kind of like, now I have to write a different book because you guys are different people, right? And so that gets a little frustrating sometimes. You know, I have this idea of like these people, and then I get to a point and I'm like, there's no way she'd do that. Like, you know,
Yeah, I thoroughly understand.
right?
Like your characters will go off on like I'm a pantser. Are you a pantser?
No, I'm a plotter, but
Oh,
what I tend to do is I plot the whole thing, and then when you're in the writing, that's what I mean. It's so frustrating is the characters you're trying to get to this plot point and it's not working, and then you have to go back and replot based on who the people are turning out to be. So that's why I think for me, the first draft is difficult because that's the one where it's like I have to keep going back to the drawing board and replotting and back to, you know, and it's not until the second draft where I'm like, okay, I know who these people are.
I
But
love
yeah.
that. I love that. I'm gonna try that one day. I'm gonna plot out an entire thing. I don't even know why I said that. It's never gonna work. So what are the books that you have written?
Okay, so which is I guess I wrote Dark Turns was my first book, and then I have The Widower's Wife, which I was a USA Today bestseller and has been optioned for TV by BET Studios. So I'm really hopeful that that'll happen.
Okay, we got the check already.
Well, the option I needed to happen for the real. You know, there's options, and then there's the
And then
actual,
that good stuff.
yeah, there's the other stuff. So then let's see, The Widower's Wife, Lie She Told, One Little Secret, Her Three Lives, The Darkness of Others, and then the Young Rich Widow series, which we
Oh,
are on book 3. Yeah.
I need to ask my question that my advice question, which was going to be something completely different, but then you're here and I was like, wait, but because you like you're USA Today bestseller and you've sold multiple things, so I gotta ask, what do you think authors should know when they want to write their own scripts for their book? Like, what are the top 3 things they have to know?
Well, I would say number one, forget voiceover, because if you lean in with voiceover, you're basically having your character narrate your book. And Hollywood's wise to that. And they're just going to be like, nope, they don't know how to write for the screen. So even if there will be eventually be voiceover, force yourself not to use any, right, in the beginning, because what you want is for everything to be externalized and for the actors to have fun things to play, right? Actors when they're on screen, they don't want to just read like an audiobook. They want to be interacting. And I say all of that, and then there was that movie, The Killer with whatever Fassbender, where the whole thing was voiceover, and people are going to go, but what about, there's always an exception. But I'm just saying, I think that when you're writing screenplays, it's really all about what are people seeing, what's the action that's being performed, and that's what gets you into it, you know, and which is a different way of thinking, because when you're writing a book, so many times we're like in the character's head, and part of the fun is the disconnect between what they're thinking and how they're interpreting the situation and then what they actually do, right? And we don't have that luxury usually in screenwriting. It's what did they do is all that the audience is going to see.
Exactly. How many times do you ask yourself that question? Like, oh, this is a great way. Wait, how are they gonna show?
Yeah.
Wait, how would I? On second thought, the scene is now like 3 lines long. Because I think that says everything that they would have done.
Right. Yeah, so there's that, and then there's what's another one? I I'd say that in a screenplay, a scene is about a change of emotion. And so many times when we write in books, we'll have it basically like the character is doing something and gets up to another like plot point, and that's when the chapter ends, right? But in screenwriting, it's when the emotion of the character has changed that you kind of end your scene. So that's like another thing.
Thank you for that. I did not know that. I'm gonna write that down in my, because I'm not gonna go to grad school. I already know that.
And the last thing I would say is there's this great thing. Oh, it's so good. I wish it's like grad school in a 20-minute YouTube video. I love this thing. It's done by the guy that did Little Miss Sunshine, and it's called Endings: The Good, the Bad, and the Great, or like the good, the bad, and the amazing, or whatever. If you just Google Little Miss Sunshine and some form of those words, it'll come up. And this guy basically in a 25-minute YouTube video takes you through years of study. So you should. I recommend.
I feel like that might have been the best piece of advice you gave.
Yeah.
No, go there.
Go there.
As soon
Watch
as I
that
get
video.
Off here, as soon as I get off of here, I'm going there.
That's right. Take some notes. That's God knows what he's doing. He's gosh, what's the actual, now I feel like I'm saying it and I'm gonna have messed up.
Okay, the great thing about Google, it'll figure it out eventually.
Okay, good.
Yeah. That's fine. Anyone listening, keep doing it until you find the video. I mean,
find it, yeah. But it's like endings, the good, the great, the bad, I don't know, something, but Little Miss Sunshine's the guy that right. Yeah.
Either that or you look up the guy who did Little Miss Sunshine, find his name, and then do that.
That's right.
Put him in YouTube, and then eventually you'll find that video. Like, it's not a problem.
Run the podcast through ChatGPT. It'll figure it out for you.
Exactly. Oh my God, you have got to love that you're able to do that. But I was about to go talk about real politics of writers, like AI and politics of writers. No, thank you. Wait, you look so happy. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh no, AI really bothers me. I make jokes, but yeah, I just think it's interesting because I think that you have to look at yourself as a writer and go, what is it that makes books and writing interesting? And I think part of it is you do feel like you're getting something of the person, of the writer, of what they've learned, their life experience, what they're bringing to the characters. And that matters to me. I wouldn't, even if AI becomes as good, at kind of like aping human experience and writing stories about it. Like the fact that it's not coming from a person who's kind of processed that and put it through their own emotional filter, I feel like there's like a humanity lost in it. But I am concerned because I think that people will always do things cheaper, and not that writers are, by and large becoming Jeff Bezos, other than Shonda Rhimes, I bow down. But but if they can do it cheaper, so it does worry me. But luckily SAG got some protection, so that's great.
Which means that eventually, well, no, the Writers Guild has protection too, right?
Well, the Authors Guild, sorry, I'm not SAG, I meant to say the Writers Guild, yeah.
The Writers Guild, yeah.
Yes, the Writers Guild got some protections, is what I meant to say. The Authors Guild is suing, so we shall see what happens with that.
I find it interesting because AI is patterns, and we do all tend to have a pattern to our writing. So yeah, that would be rough because you do want it cheaper. But on the other hand, people like to meet their authors.
Yeah.
Interact with their authors, and it's going to be kind of hard to do with a computer, and they like to have input on the book, and you could do it, but like you want to meet the person, talk about it, and that sort of stuff. So I don't know. I'm thinking like we have a few more years left, maybe.
That's true. I think we have some years left. It's just kind of like, what does it look like in the future, But
yeah, especially I feel like the indie author definitely has some years left, because I feel like we're going to mundanely, even if it's mundane and ridiculous at this point, we are going to be the Don Quixotes of the literary world. We're going to be like, tilt at the windmill, let's go.
That's good.
We're gonna keep trying. I mean, who we are.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We
Well, I'll be there with you because I just, yeah.
will
But
beat it this time.
I know. I'll be there like smashing computers, becoming like, back in, open your print books. But
Oh my God. So the other thing that I wanted to ask was about your writing journey. You are a best-selling author. You did the audiobook as well. How did you start your writing journey?
sure. Well, I always wanted to be a writer, but I wanted to eat. So I became a journalist because I knew that I would get paid every 2 weeks. And so I was a journalist for over a decade, and I would write my stuff on the side, my fiction on the side. And then I was a business journalist for the longest time. I worked for Business Week magazine, and yeah. And so it was, you know, and I loved interviewing and learning people's stories and asking them. And I think that there's a lot of overlap between journalism and writing. It's the great thing about writing your own stories is that they end the way you feel some closure with, and that doesn't happen in journalism. But yeah, so that's basically my writing journey. And then when I got to have my second kid, I couldn't handle the breaking news schedule anymore. My first kid, I always joke, but it's a true joke, that her first word was in Spanish, which is great, except I'm Jamaican and Irish and I don't speak Spanish. So that's the amount of time I was spending with my firstborn child. But her first word was like, it was like, she'd say patos for zapatos for shoes. And I was like, what does that mean? So I quit. And at the time I was working for CNBC, writing for TV, and I quit. And then I was like, I'm going to give myself a year and write my first book. And I did, and I got an agent. And then, I started doing it.
How did you meet your agent?
A conference, which I really recommend. I think that so many writers, send out, they get that big book of agents and they go down the list and they send out. And I do know some people that have gotten an agent like that, but it's really difficult because basically, they hire interns to go read those submissions. And then it's like, you have to get the intern to like you. And then maybe she gives it to the agent. Maybe the agent reads it, maybe they don't. Whereas if you go to a conference, that FaceTime, like anything else, somebody knows you. And then when they get that submission, it's like, oh yeah, she didn't seem crazy. Let me read what she has. And so I really recommend to anybody who can, if you don't have any contacts already in the industry or anybody to say to you, hey, meet my agent, then go do that and try to, get some FaceTime. Because even if that agent doesn't represent you, sometimes they can recommend another agent, and then you're vetted, right? Then you come in at a different thing. You're not coming in off the slush pile. And that's just so important.
That is so true. Like, oof, so very important. So I have a question, but it's completely and totally for me, because again, I am a narcissist, therefore I need to know things for just me. But if you're interested, please listen to the audience. So how did you pitch your script to the development executive, I'm assuming?
Yeah, well, the first time, my first thing that I ever had made was Deadly Estate, and I did it with Fox, MarVista, and Tubi. And so I was fortunate in that one of my professors in grad school knew that they were looking for thrillers and basically said, hey, you should pitch them. And so I sent, I think, 7 pitches, and it was the 7th. So that means a pitch is like a 1-page, for this purposes, was a 1-page document that kind of had a summary of the story all the way up until the ending, right? Maybe so like each one, let's say, is like 400 words. And I pitched 7 of them. And it was the 7th one that they were like, yeah, that one could work. Go write that script. And then I wrote that script and they were like, yeah, we like parts of this. Now go write a completely different script.
Okay,
But,
it was like writing a book, but shorter.
yes, exactly. That was exactly it. And so then I did that, and then that worked. And then the second time I was very lucky in that they just reached out to me. They liked the first one and they were like, we want you to write about this. And I was like, thank you. You mean I don't have to come up with it? Fantastic. You want what? And so that was the second one. And then everything else, you know, you just write pitches and you, well, in my case, I have a manager and he has contacts with production companies and, yeah, and sometimes they like it and sometimes they don't. And sometimes you spend weeks on different proposals and, you know, and it looks like it's going to go and then it doesn't. This business has a lot of rejection. So that's the other thing I'd say. Anyone who is like not okay with rejection, find something else, because like you do have to be like a little bit of a narcissist. I know you're joking, but you have to be the person that's like, you know what, you're wrong. This is great. This is shiny and new and innovative, and you just don't see it. And I'm one day going to be accepting my Oscar for screenwriting, or I'm going to be in the New York Times with my bestseller, and I'm going to be doing that. And when you're in a vindictive mood, you're like, and I'm going to call you out. And then if you're not in a vindictive mood, you're like, and it's okay. And I'm going to just be there and thank everybody. And it won't have your name on it because you didn't realize. Right. But you have to be a little bit of that person. While at the same time being humble enough that if somebody gives you direction, being like, yes, I'll take it. So that's it. You know,
I love how you said that, but like, I'm going to say, like, for me, I was published when I was 10 years old. So
amazing.
yeah. And then after that, there were so many no's all the time.
Yeah.
That I've learned that, like, if you don't believe you're the best writer, well, it's not likely that you're going to stay here long. And I've
That's
been here
right.
for well over a little over 10 years. Like,
You're
obviously.
amazing.
So yeah, you just
How
got
did
to
you do that?
at 10 years old.
Yes.
I was good.
Yeah.
No, I had started submitting at 7. So I have
I
been doing it for 3 years, constantly, every day, 30 days out of a month. Like, I'd write a query letter every day. I'd write a new poem every day. I send it in every day. So at the end of the week, there were 7. I put them all in their little envelopes sometimes and send them off. Sometimes I email them over. But yeah.
That's amazing. I had tried that at 7. My mom sent it to Scholastic. I wrote like a short story and I got my first rejection letter. And then because I was not ready, I think I got that rejection letter and was like, I'm going to go give it a decade and then
So,
start again.
so I
You
came
know?
home at 5 and told my parents I was going to be a doctor. And so, like, and you come back home 2 years from now and be like, I'm going to be a writer. They're like,
Yeah,
you're gonna work at it like you were working at it for those 2 years to be like, I'm gonna learn everything I can about anatomy. You're gonna do the exact same thing. So that was at the end of my homework, it was my job to either create a new poem or write a new query letter. These were my jobs.
that's amazing. And
Like,
what were your parents?
huh?
Your parents were they Caribbean?
No.
Sounds like a Caribbean. Oh, really? It
Right?
sounds
But
like
you
a very
made me look like
Jamaican
I
thing
was,
too.
right?
Right. So I was like, oh, is you Jamaicans? Like, like my mom.
My mom believed in making you like, she's like, if you say you're going to do it, then you must work at it every day. Like, it's your job. Because
Right.
this is what you want. And she was like, there are many hungry writers in the world and you will not be them. And at 12, she made me learn how to set up my own writing business.
Wow.
So I've been making a living at writing since I was 12. Steady.
That's amazing. That is amazing. I need to go kick my kids in the butt.
Oh, whatever. It's like, it was my parents. That's what they made me do. So like when she's out here and she's telling you that there's a lot of rejection, there is a lot of rejection. I mean, they were rejecting a 7-year-old for 3 years and they knew I was 7. You know, they knew I was 7, 8, and 9. They knew how old I was and they were like, no.
Yeah. Well, I remember when I got my first rejection, which was also 7, I had illustrated my story and they didn't give me, and I sent the original with the original illustrations and I never got it back. No, learn the hard way. But you think that there'd be a little grace for 7, that they'd be like, oh, so cute. She sent her original. All right. So
Like, they treat you like a full-grown adult. Like, they do. And then I started trying to query the big 5 when I was 10. I was like, what?
wow.
I won. All right, it's big 5 time. Woo! Yeah, they treat you just like a plain old adult, okay? You can get back a letter with two letters on there. N and O, period. Sign of name.
Yeah. No, there's just so much of it. Well, I think that's why I hid out in journalism for a while. Because in journalism, like, so I started writing for newspapers when I was 13. And after I had gotten rejected I was like, maybe I need to go someplace else to make some money because it doesn't seem like anyone likes me. But that was how my parents did. It was like same kind of deal. Like, okay, you have to work at it. And I was like, I'm going to go work at it over here, where it's like, it's not quite as binary a decision process, right? They can put you on like the fluff pieces, and then you can work your way up to doing the better stuff.
That's what I've been in journalism so hard. But anyway, we're having a discussion now that I could definitely have off camera. So I'm going to go ahead and ask, where can people find out more information about you, listen to the audiobooks, see the movie?
Oh, great. Well, so I have the movies are free. You can go to Tubi. It's Midnight Hustle and Deadly Estate are mine. But and the books, if you go to cateholahan.com, I have links there, but they're sold wherever books are sold. My older back catalog's always available on Amazon, and then the new stuff is still floating around in print. So that's
okay. I want to thank you so much for being here with us today, y'all. Please go check out those books, look those movies. I'm looking at the movie because I need to do a study. I didn't go to graduate school. I'm just going to be trying to write down all the lines. I mean, like, wait, what did she do? You can find your ladies, where you can always find your ladies, at www.andithoughladies.com, which I did not put at the beginning, by the way. That feels really weird. I did not put the website at the beginning. So I'm going to say it twice, www.andithoughladies.com. And when you go there, go down to the middle of the page, and you can see the 3 charities that we proudly support. We ask that you take a moment out and give them your help. That does not mean they need money all the time, although I'm sure they would not reject money. Like they're like anyone else, any other of us, they would not reject money. Wow, I got really tripped up on those words, and I'm a writer. That is sad. We thank you in advance for helping them out. Remember that wisdom is all around you if you're open to finding it and accepting it. So peace and love, you guys, from Winona and the Missing Jade. Oh yeah, thanks for listening.